Welcome back to another episode of All the Glitters. I'm your host, Kalen Hurley. Let's start the show. Like a extended vacation, this weekend took way too long, and there is so much to unpack. But we're going to get there. We're going to navigate through the waters as fast and as efficient as possible. Try not to leave any details out. And hopefully we'll all have been a little bit entertained and mildly educated or not. So first and foremost, there's tons and everyone knows the big stories, but I want to start with VGK roster players because they are on the roster. They deserve somebody to talk about them first before any of the bells of the ball and the people who are hypotheticals. But to say that I'm like gutted or sad for Alex Pietrangelo is a pretty big understatement. Um, Basically came out today and nothing's been confirmed or at least moved over paperwork wise for LTIR, but saying that Petro is going to miss the entirety of the 25-26 season at least. So, you know, obviously you're going to get your people right out of the gate on Twitter. And that's, there's some stuff that goes on Reddit that doesn't get on Twitter, but mainly your source of fast information in the hockey realm is all coming from Twitter. You're going to get your LTIR, Mark Stone jokes, things like that. But, obviously there's times and places for humor. But for me, you see a warrior who's dedicated his life to the game, former captain, two-time Stanley Cup champion. You know this guy doesn't want to go out the way he's going out. But also, when you start to see your play decline and maybe your body's not coming back as much as it is, he's 34, going to be 35 or already 35. Very similar age and yeah, you don't recover as well. And I'm not a professional athlete. I couldn't even imagine the grind of an 82 game season with the travel. He's a family man. He has a few children. So I get it. It stinks. And you never want to lose your quality of life with your family after the game. There is life after this awesome game. So when we're talking about Alex Pietrangelo, the player, unfortunately for him, there's a stigma attached to him potentially going on LTIR, which seems like it's going to happen because he plays for Vegas. Again, we'll quickly get into it. Vegas has never broken a rule for the CBA, but when it had been as much as it was for those 3 years in a row, all of Mark Stone's injuries are legit. But when you're having success and you are working within the rules, but getting players who are wanted players, and you have the advantages as no state tax and a program that's putting out a good product on the ice and a place that players want to go to. I mean, yes, we're not the most, I would say, typical hockey city where it doesn't snow in the winter every now and then, maybe. It's not, the kids who grew up there, they're starting to get there, but we didn't grow up playing hockey. We didn't do any of that. So as far as traditional hockey market goes, yeah, we're new, but as far as cities go, Vegas is unbelievable. If you take yourself away from that 3 mile strip of land, the strip, man, we have unbelievable rock climbing. Golf is incredible. Recreation with Red Rock and Mount Charleston. This place is unbelievable. It's a great place. I was born and raised here. Awesome place to raise a family. We're getting into to the point where we have so many pluses that, like, I do believe that even if once our window does close a little bit and we are going to take those steps back and we won't be a perennial playoff team and we might be a bubble team or we might just be the bottom of the barrel getting lottery picks, I still think players are going to want to be here. It might be veterans at the end of their careers, so you're going to see some cool, fun names down the road. But I think the players are always going to want to play here. I think Vegas is a destination for a reason. And by the time it gets unbearably hot and you don't want to be here anymore, you're a professional athlete with oodles and oodles of money. Go home. It's almost like a reverse snowbird where the Canadians come here for the winter. We're going up there for the summer. So super bummed. But it comes with very fortuitous timing where we're going to use his $8.8 million to the salary cap, and we're going to be able to use that for this year. So Petro's going to be an integral part of this year while not touching the ice. And you hear the things like he might be, oh, here he comes, game one of the playoffs. I don't think that's true. If it is, I'll eat my words, and I'm sure VGK will be thoroughly investigated after that. But it's just, you get a sense with how much things I've been hearing recently, and even a little bit, a couple of years ago when he was having some issues with his daughter. He talked about hanging it up then. This game means a lot to him, but not more than his family, not more than his family life. So if he thinks that, getting back to the game too fast or things like that are going to jeopardize his future, then he's not going to be there. So I don't think we see him this year at all. And I honestly think that that's game 5 last playoffs on round 2 against Edmonton. I think that's the last we've seen Alex Pietrangelo on the ice as a player, which is a bummer. He was such a good addition. When we got bounced the 1920 season, that was the main concern, is getting a true clear-cut number 1 defenseman. Alex Pietrangelo was our guy, and you know what? He was a huge contributor and a reason why we won the cup. So always, always, always has my respect. Thank you very much for everything you've done. Now, moving along to another roster player who is now not a roster player, and this one just came in right before I set up. I was setting up everything, putting my kids down and hanging out with the wife, so I didn't have my phone on me for the first time today. This weekend felt like an entire year just checking. I don't even want to check my screen time on the phone, and honestly, 99% of it's Twitter. Not going to do it. Very curious, though, to do it. So we'll see. Nic Hague, you have been traded. You are now a Nashville Predator. I really hope that they are better next year, because I really like the player, and my favorite Knight of all time plays for the Nashville Predators in Jonathan Marchessault. So you got Marshy, you got Hague, 2 opposite ends at the height spectrums. We had our shortest player go, and now we have our tallest player go. Nic Hague didn't do much offensive wowing. His skating left a lot to be desired. He was a physical guy. He was kind of the guy who would, him and Kolesar kind of swapped the enforcer duties, especially once Reeves left. But, if you had to ask me my opinion on anybody, if someone was going to fight like a heavyweight bout, you got to throw Nic Hague out there. And he wasn't going to wow you with much of his game, but he was responsible and he played well. And him and Zach Whitecloud had grew up together in the minors, and then they came up, and it was an awesome pair to watch grow. And in the maturization of his game over the years has been fun to watch. And you know what? I'll always remember, once a year, he'd take the Hager bomb and he would just like accidentally rip one of our own players' heads off. It was, he might have been responsible for more VGK forward injuries than opposite teams over the years. And then my next favorite memory of him was at the Cup parade. He was asked a question. He was just like, he was so hammered. I mean, all of them were, right? But he was just said something, shook his head. He's like, I don't even know where I am right now. So it was great. good for him. 4 times 5.5. And when I had said he was going to get around 5.5, that 4.5 to 5.5, people were, no, you're out of your mind, yada yada. There it was. I think that they see something in him that, Vegas, if we had the cap space to do so, I think would have kept Nic. And honestly, when you're doing that, and we're getting into it, right? He kind of priced himself out. The cap went up, and he signed his contract when he did. So it kind of, right place, right time. And Nashville needs to get younger. In return, so now new roster players for VGK, we're getting Colton Sissons and Jeremy Lauzon. Jeremy Lauzon is not going to, first off, needs a new number because he's not getting Nabby's 3. But he's really not going to wow you with offense. If you thought Nic Hague was, wolf. He makes Nic Hague look like a forward. But what he is really good at is he's a very physical person. He will maybe give you 10 shots on goal in a month or less, but he will also probably give you 10 hits a game. So happy to see another physical presence. That way, it's not just left up to McNabb and Barbashev out there throwing the body. So he is not afraid to do it. Again, the more you throw the body, the more pressure you could put on the other team, and the more space you create for your players and your playmakers like Jack. And sometimes the assistance players need isn't on the score sheet. And I'm super excited to see what a physical D-man can do. And also, I think he's only making $2 million for another year. So what that does for us is it gives us flexibility next year when Eichel's extension is up, and we're saving some money. $3.5 million if you take into consideration Nic just signed for 5.5. So keep the cap hit low, keep the term low, really awesome. And then we get to Colton Sissons, who, when you're looking at what role he would play if he's going to play in Vegas, he is that fourth line center. What does that do for Nic Hague? We'll get there in a minute. But again, he's going to be more of your traditional fourth line center. I said it last episode or the episode prior, and I said I think Nic is top 3, top 5 fourth line centers in the league. When he's playing that position, he might be top 3. And then that top line of Howden, Waugh, and Kolesar, I think, is the best fourth line. We're losing a little bit of that now. Or not really, actually, sorry. That was, Nic Hague is not going anywhere as we speak. And I'm going to be checking on that before the episode's done. But you have to imagine that this isn't over for Vegas, that they're not going to settle with this. Still have a few more signings, I think, up their sleeve. Right now, as it stands, we have just above league minimum to the cap. We have not yet put Alex Pietrangelo on LTIR. You could operate 10% above the cap during the offseason. So I think with whatever happens, it's probably going to happen tomorrow or the next day. No shit, right? Next day is free agency, but we'll figure that out. So yeah, that just happened. It's kind of shocking that these deals are coming in a little bit later, but also, I think that Kelly McCrimmon had a lot on his plate today. This morning, wake up, roll out, and you know what? Let's back this up let's Quentin Tarantino and back this up to Saturday. Saturday afternoon, Darren Drager. Hey, I'm hearing rumblings that a sign and trade with Marner and Vegas is in the works. They're talking. That's cool. Now, a couple reasons you'd sign and trade. I think the first and obvious reason, but I think the least likely reason, is that 8th year. You get rights to the player prior to free agency. You could sign him for the 8th year. I don't think Vegas is interested in 8 years. I don't think that, because that's going to jack that cap hit up a little higher. If you take a lower term, more of a bridge deal, you can keep the cap hit relatively lower, wait for that cap to skyrocket, yodel. And then you go from there. You sign your next deal. If he signs 4 years, he's 32 in his next deal. That will be his last one. He could probably sign like a 5 or 6 year deal and be done. But that'll be above what he's getting paid now if his play continues to rise. Now, the other option, and the one that I think Vegas was more interested in, is you now secure the player. You can, if it's the sign and trade, if both parties are coming to the table in good faith negotiation, this part's key. If they're both coming to the table in good faith, let's negotiate. You're avoiding this very, very, very naughty word that's came out, and that's tampering. You're able to negotiate. You're able to get terms and things like that on the table because everyone's got to be involved. But the biggest one is, outside of the tampering issue, and we'll get there because there's a lot to unpack there, you get to secure the player you want before free agency because Vegas is probably the least monetarily satisfying club interested in Marner. LA has like 25 million. Anaheim has $1 billion because they're always bottom feeders as far as spending goes. The list goes on and on. I think Utah said that they were, everybody's in on Marner. It's kind of funny when Nick Kyprios and a lot of Leafs Nation, I'm actually noticing now a lot of Leafs media is just like, oh yeah, they're in on him. They're in on him. They're like, oh yeah, Carlson, Hurdle. It's like, yeah, no shit, you're in on these guys. They're good players. So whatever. If your GM isn't interested in Mitch Marner, you need a new GM. Plain and simple. Whether they could pull it off, obviously. Whether your team needs something like that, obviously. But if they're not interested in the name, you need someone else. Go take a hike. But so Vegas gets to talk to their number one legally and get some stuff in place, and then not have Mitch just get like his feet swept up in some amazing deal. Now, the deal kind of sounded like 4 years, 12 million, Nick Waugh. And then randomly, it was like Nick Waugh and potentially some other stuff. Okay, let's get this out of the way. You are about to lose Mitch Marner for nothing. Zero, you just let him walk out the door because of poor asset management from the prior regime, a la Brendan Shanahan, Kyle Dubas. You guys royally fucked yourselves, and now you're scrambling around. Cool. Got it. We don't need to it is what it is. You're trying to save face a little bit and not look so inept at your job. Cool, I get that. Vegas has a history of being sly and cunning, bordering lines that maybe are a little shisty, but never crossing them. Main part. So you have these two things. Now, this morning, okay, everyone automatically just like threw Nic Hague into that package, which, it could be this last deal that just happened could be a big giant FU to Toronto, or that was never part of the package anyway. And I think you get people who are hopeful and they're like, oh yeah, Nic Hague's definitely coming then. But Toronto said it since the end of the season. Their back end's locked up. They like it. They like their defensemen. So I don't know where Nic Hague would have fit in other than maybe trying to find someone for like Brandon Carlo, a place so he can, they can offload some extra cap and have some more wiggle room with the different forward. But for all intents and purposes, they were totally fine in their back end and goaltending. So they were just going to make some forward changes, which they made an awesome extension today and over the weekend. So JT's locked up. We talked about that, but then also Matt Nyes just got signed tonight for like, I think it was 7.5, 5 years, 7.75. Let's just go with that. I think that's right. But I always thought it was going to be like Nick Waugh, a third rounder or something like that. Because remember, The alternative is you're getting nothing. So do you get a reliable Swiss Army knife middle six forward who could play 3C, or he could play 4C, or he could play wing at times? Or do you get fuck all, see you later, and we're the laughing stock again? And to be honest, after this morning, I kind of want to see the latter. Now, if you've listened to this podcast, I quite like the Toronto Maple Leafs. I've even said that if I was going to have a Canadian team, not in the Western Conference, I believe it would be the Leafs. For some reason, you know what it is? I think some of their media personalities are endearing. I mean, I think we all have at least at some point listened to Steve Dangle. You see the misery and the way this guy just rides or dies for his team, and you want to see success with them. I really do. I think that it's a shame, and I said it in the last episode, is that the league is better when these teams are better. And I think that sometimes their media and their fans are a little bit too hard on the team, and I think that the team sometimes needs to toughen up a bit. So it's a little bit of a middle ground there. But this morning, it was leaked. No one knows who leaked it. I would assume it's coming from, well, I have two thoughts on it, but I would assume it was coming from the Leaf side. If Vegas signs Mitch on Tuesday, they were going to notify the league and say that they were tampering, or that they're basically accusing Vegas of tampering. Now, remember, if both sides are coming to the table in good faith saying, hey, we want to do this deal, is that tampering? I honestly, I'm trying to look at it through the lens of a rational person, which is probably where I'm going wrong. Okay, you have Vegas fans who are irrational for Vegas. You have the rest of the NHL who are irrational against Vegas because of a lot of things. And then you have a few people who are in the middle, but there's not many. And I'm trying to think of it in the lens of the people in the middle, and I just can't figure out how it would be tampering. And especially when you consider, apparently last trade deadline, they were trying to talk about basically like a Marner for Theodore. Okay, so you have history there a year and a half ago. And then at this trade deadline, there was a three-way trade that had been chatted about, where it was sending Marner to Vegas and it was sending Rantanen to Toronto. And I would assume something goes back to Carolina, but Vegas didn't have the assets, or not willing to part with those assets. Okay, so that's the second time we've tried to get him. Now this third time is the sign and trade here, and I'm assuming both sides wanted to get it done. And I gave you the intention of Vegas' side. It is a very legitimate reason and a very legitimate concern that Vegas could just lose out on Marner, and they're going all in with, pun intended, they're pushing their chips in. They're all in. But if you're offering 12 and a half, and LA's offering you 16, they're not. You got to go where the money's at. I get it. You got to go with you're already out of the situation you're in now. LA would be unreal to live with as far as weather and everything else. And I mean, the taxes are high, but if you're getting $16 million, like, you're making more money than you did at your last place, probably making more money in Vegas than Vegas too, barely, but you still are. So I think Vegas came with every intention to do this. I think Toronto definitely came with every intention to do this. The one person who has control over this is Mitch Marner and his agent, Darren Ferris. And Leafs fans will 100% agree with me. With their last negotiation, when he got his last contract, they hated the guy. Darren Ferris makes at least Mitch Marner, look like shit, and has done it a couple of times in his career. Now, I looked up who he represents. He represents Evan Rodriguez. He represents Sam Bennett. He represents he represents a lot of people. The problem is Mitch seems to be the only client of his that is getting this, but he's also the most high profile other than Sam Bennett. And I'm telling you right now, the Florida Panthers, what they've done with their team is they're all the same person. I told you the cookie cutter that Paul Maurice has in there, and they're all willing to take these team friendly deals to stay. And they have their like legit core, like 4 forwards and 3 D men just locked up to like 2030. They are going to be a problem. And it's because they all have that same mentality. So I don't think Darren Ferris can get in the way of the Evan Rodriguez's and the Sam Bennett's because they're going to do what's best for the team. Mitch Marner, on the other hand, and the way that the ethos of the Maple Leafs were for so long is that, this core 4 is going to get the bag, and then we're so talented that everybody else around them is going to, it doesn't matter. You plug and play them. Obviously, that didn't work. Now, I think you kind of see and grow from there because if you continued that trend, Mitch would be looking at 13, 14 million. Whereas if he's signing in Vegas, he's looking at like 12, which on paper is a little under $2 million raise, which I think he's probably worth more than 12. But you look at what Rantanen got in this trade deadline and the extension he signed, you're looking at these other right wingers. So I think that that's where it stopped. I think it got there. I don't think Darren Ferris or Mitch Marner want to give the Leafs anything. And at the end of the day, he has a full no movement clause. So if he doesn't want to be moved, he's got the ultimate say. It doesn't matter. You can't just trade the guy's rights because that's contractually, and you guys signed it, and then you let that thing kick in before you got rid of him. So, oh well, we'll find out. I don't, and if it's a leak on the Toronto Maple Leafs saying, hey, that's essentially strong-arming McCrimmon into just trying to throw this package at him, saying like, oh, please, this, that, and the other. But again, if he's throwing everything under the sun but Marner saying no, you can't do anything about it. Now, on the other side, which I was thinking about just randomly throughout the day, I was probably cooking dinner. If Vegas was the one to leak this, that how did I think about this? There was a legit connection in my head, and at this point of the night it's gone. So disregard that. Oops. Yeah. Do I think Marner is going to be a Vegas Golden Knight? I'd say likelihood. If you have your magic 8 ball, it looks likely. But I don't know. I don't know if it's prior to. Now, maybe more so it does look like that because of the whole Nashville trade. You get back Colton Sissons, and now you have not truly expendable, but Nick Waugh now becomes redundant. You have a 4th line center. That's what the role he plays in Vegas is. So you get rid of him. Now you have your assets in place. You actually save a couple $100,000 on the cap with Colton Sissons to Nick Waugh. He makes 2.8, where Nick Waugh makes 3. Again, 1 year left on his contract, so term, nothing. And 4th line centermen, they can be at any point. It's easy to replace wings, not as easy to replace centermen, but 4th line guys, you could find somebody, or you could call somebody up in your farm system. Cole Schwindt's awesome. I mean, he's a 4th line centerman. So at least on Vegas's team, he would be just fine. If Sissons stinks, waive him and move on, or you ride it out for the year and be done with it after that. But you always have Cole Schwindt in the back pocket. If you sign him, he's an RFA. I would assume you're going to sign him for like $8.25 a year or two, and let him sit in the press box and stay ready. He'll be the forward version of Ben Hutton. I don't know what we're going to do with Ben Hutton. I'd like to keep him around. I like that guy. He's awesome. He always stays ready. He's never going to wow you. But sometimes when he does get in the game, you're like, damn, he's just like I mean, his legs should be fresh, right? But let's see here. I'm going to say, and I don't know when this episode comes out tomorrow. It will come out tomorrow. Is Marner going to be signed prior to that? Maybe. Deal got done late tonight. I would assume that the deal, if it's going to happen with Marner prior to Tuesday, is going to be done before dinner. So if it's going to happen prior to Tuesday, I'd say before 5 p.m. Pacific time, Pacific Standard. Are we in Standard Time or Daylight Time? I don't know. In Vegas, it'll be 5 p.m. and Mitch Marner will either be a Golden Knight or it'll be a Golden Knight on Tuesday. That's my you heard it first hot take. But yeah, I there's more and more around the league, but I wasn't paying attention to the league that too much this weekend. It got hot in a hurry for Vegas, and I was all on board. And now, we're coming to the end of this thing, but I do want to, just because we'll see. Yeah, some people are saying, barring another trade, Vegas might be out on Marner. No. Okay, so here's a rational person. Pietrangelo's LTIR is 8.8, which leaves Vegas with their current cap, which is just over league min, 9.6 or 9.56 million. Assuming you move Waz 3, 12 million, which is what they thought was 4 times 12. Doesn't leave you much after that. No one can get hurt ever. Oh my God. But bang. There you go. Was probably gone. I mean, let's just face it. Whether or not we get Mitch Marner, that's actually not true, but probably was gone. And if we don't, you're looking at Besser and Ehlers as far as the next 2 high-profile wingers. And is that going to be enough? I mean, they're looking at probably $9 million contracts, plus you really wouldn't have to move anything. Probably still move Wah. Just for the sake of, or you move Sissons, and now you have an extra piece. Maybe they grabbed Sissons and traded with Nashville because they knew that Toronto was more interested in that player. We'll find that out very soon. I think you're more interested in Wah, only because he scores more. He's got a better scoring touch. He had 15 goals last year, and that's not his role here in Vegas. So whatever, we'll see. Yeah, it was a big Homer Vegas Knights podcast this time, but it is what it is. Those are going to happen, and it's going to happen a lot more frequently here coming up to the end, beginning of the season and during the season. So, I'll probably be on maybe a smaller version tomorrow if Mitch does get signed, or if there's any other big news around the league. But yeah, other than that, thank you for your ears. Thank you for your time. If you like this thing, please actually click like on the YouTube channel. That'd be great. If you liked it so much that you think that somebody you know would like to hear my crazy renderings of what I feel about the NHL and the Vegas Golden Knights, please share it with them. And subscribe. That is the best way to tell me that you like my content, is to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Eventually, this is going to be very soon, I think, out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that. I am still pending. I'm assuming everybody in the world has a podcast, because they do. And they're combing through a bunch of different entries. So once that's done, you'll be able to hear me there too. But yeah, until then, thank you. I will talk to you guys later. Go Knights, and besos, mi amigos.